Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining today's stream. Hopefully, there will be no technical issues this time around, as it was yesterday. So, once again, many thanks for joining this stream. Today is 28th of October. Now it's 11 o'clock in the morning, Moscow time, and as always, I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments that Russian media is focused on, and hopefully you will find this episode informative and useful. And if so, dear friends, please like the video, share if you can with your friends, and leave some commentary. This might help to deal with the algorithm. Anya is telling me that sound is good. I can also see comment section. Sound seems like is okay now. Okay, good. And so, in case, dear friends, you want to support my work, there is a links under this video in description box of PayPal, Boosty, Patreon, and also during the stream. As you know, I'm streaming on both my channels on YouTube and Rumble. You can use a super chat feature on Rumble to donate or to highlight also any question or topic that you want to be discussed after the news segment, and you can become premium subscriber on Rumble. Also, and dear friends, if you can switch from YouTube to Rumble during this stream, that will be also support, because my channel is monetized on Rumble, right? And more views my videos will have, there are probably more people on Rumble. Rumble's wider community will see at some point my videos, and maybe they will decide to join our community. So yes, if you can, please switch to Rumble and watch this live stream there. And so, okay, that's been said, let's go through some news now, and I will start with this report from Maria Novosti about work of Russian air defense systems last night. Information is based on Russian Defense Ministry, and so during the past night from 11 p.m. Yesterday late evening to 7 a.m. this morning on October 28, air defense systems on duty intercepted 17 drones that was launched by Kiev regime with assistance of NATO to strike deep into Russian territory. 13 drones were intercepted over the Kaluga region, 3 drones over the Bryansk, 1 drone in the Moscow region, after a relatively large-scale attempt of NATO and their NATO proxy Kiev regime to strike deep into Russia. Yesterday night, when air defense systems intercepted more than 190 drones, among which a couple of dozen was directed towards Russian capital, Moscow. Well, I guess Kiev regime and NATO sort of ran out of drones, and last night they launched far fewer. I guess we might see decline on these numbers of drones that are launched to strike Russia in next day or two, and then we will see again 100, 200 drones being launched. At least that's what usually happens. Also, dear friends, TASS news agency is reporting that Russian armed forces liberated the Yegorovka settlement, Novonikolayevka settlement, and Privolnaya settlement in past 24 to 48 hours. And let me show you on the map where these settlements are located. And well, it's Zaporozhye and Dnipropetrovsk regions, dear friends. This is Novonikolayevka settlement on western bank of Yanchur River and Russian bridgehead in the western bank, or right bank, let's say, of the Yanchur River is definitely getting bigger and bigger, and soon I guess it will not take long before Russian armed forces will establish full control over Novovasilievskaya and Uspanovka settlements. Russian troops already, Russian DRGs and forward units already are operating in Uspanovka. Also, this is Privolnaya area, by the way, that is liberated by Russian forces. This is Zaporozhye region, most eastern flank of Zaporozhye direction. And when it comes to the Dnipropetrovsk region, this is a settlement of Yegorovka, which is under full Russian control now, according to reports, Russian troops are conducting clearing operation in Vishnyovo settlement. Some sources even are reporting that Vishnyovo is already under Russian control, but Defense Ministry did not yet confirm this information. And if you take a look at the map, dear friends, everything north and northwest of this red line that you see on your screen right now is Dnipropetrovsk region. And Russian troops already have liberated dozen or two settlements in the Dnipropetrovsk region. And as I said, there are quite a number of times before, Russian offensive operations in Dnipropetrovsk will not take, in Dnipropetrovsk region, will not take as long as in DPR, heavily fortified and heavily urbanized DPR, for example. Dnipropetrovsk region is mainly steppe area, significantly less urbanized compared to other regions that are on line of contact right now. So when order comes, when Russian troops we will finalize the preparation of the ground or a bridgehead for sectoral scale offensive operation in the Dnipropetrovsk region, I think advances will be very rapid, very rapid. And while map is open, dear friends, let me also give you an update on Pokrovsk-Mirnograd direction, on some other areas. I have news about it too. And for example, RIA Novosti reported, based on statements of head of DPR, Donetsk People's Republic, Denis Pushilin, that Russian troops control most of Krasnoarmeysk, which is Pokrovsk. It has two names, as many other settlements. There is a Russian name and name that was used by Kiev regime. And so, according to Denis Pushilin, Russian forces are in control of most of their city. Also, we have reports from a number of sources, and Vzгляд newspaper is also pointing out that Kiev regime deployed special forces of main intelligence directorate, terrorist organization basically, into Pokrovsk. And well, this will not be helpful for them, because we also have this report that all supply routes to Kiev regime's garrison in Pokrovsk or Krasnoarmeysk have been cut off. This information is also coming from Denis Pushilin, right? And let me show you now Pokrovsk itself, dear friends. So this is Pokrovsk-Mirnograd agglomeration, of course, and most of the city is, according to Pushilin, under Russian control. Kiev regime has deployed its special forces to stabilize situation, but those special forces are now trapped also in Pokrovsk and will be neutralized, of course, by Russian armed forces. If regular troops of Kiev regime will have a chance and opportunity, if they want to lay down arms and surrender, and will be treated according to Geneva Conventions, terrorists from all sorts of neo-Nazi formations should not expect similar treatment, because terrorists are not under Geneva Convention. That's how it is, right? Also, Russian troops are advancing in Mirnograd, area. Both these towns, by the way, are encircled now, and the most southern part of Mirnograd is already in a gray zone. Basically, Russian troops advancing inside this district of the city, and well, I guess it will not take much longer than a couple of weeks before both these towns, Pokrovsk, Mirnograd, and a couple of surrounding villages, will be completely liberated by Russian forces. Also, dear friends, we have a report here about situation in Kupiansk. You remember a few days ago when Russian President Vladimir Putin had a meeting with the commanders of the Russian armed forces, including head of Russian general staff. Information was revealed to public that in Pokrovsk-Mirnograd agglomeration, some over 5,000 troops of enemy are encircled, and Kupiansk was also mentioned during that meeting, where about 5,000 also Kiev regime's troops are encircled. And well, there was several attempts, by the way, according to reports, several attempts of Kiev regime's forces to break from Kupiansk. At least 4 times Kiev regime's garrison tried to flee the city, and they were blocked by Russian forces, and after receiving heavy losses, well, these troops of Kiev regime that was trying to run away, they went back to their original positions. This is Kupiansk, of course, and well, I guess best decision of Kiev regime's garrison might make in current situation is to contact Russian side. They know how to do it, and arrange a safe surrender. Otherwise, most of them, some of them might manage to run away, some of them, but most of them probably will find their last day exactly there in Kupiansk. So I think it will also not take much more than several weeks before Kupiansk is completely liberated, before end of this autumn, as I predicted quite a while ago. Most likely, Pokrovsk-Mirnograd agglomeration, Kupiansk, will be completely liberated by Russian forces. There is quite high chances that Russian troops will also liberate completely Volchansk by end of November, right, by end of this autumn, and we should expect significant progress of the Russian armed forces in Liman, Seversk directions. Russian troops already conducting operations to finalize control over their Yampol, over the Yampol settlement, which is here, by the way, in between Seversk and Liman. Russian troops advancing towards Liman from northern eastern, northern western sites, and according to reports, Russian troops also already operating inside the Liman itself, as it is case in Seversk, right? So we might see all these settlements in a DPR to be liberated by end of autumn. So some very significant developments to be expected, positive developments for Russian armed forces and for Russian Federation, Russian people. Initiative obviously is in Russian hands all along the front line, and in no circumstances Kiev regime will ever be able, Kiev regime and NATO will ever be able to regain initiative on any of their directions. That's been said, dear friends, let's continue with some other news. And well, globalists and the globalist control regimes have no reverse gear, as we all know, and they have no brakes, and they are still pursuing their sick idea of achieving strategical defeat of Russia. And on daily basis, we are receiving reports about different NATO member states, how much money they're going to allocate for the Kiev regime to prolong this war, how much weapons they're going to send. And on this very topic, we have this report that Saab, Swedish Saab, by the way, company that produces fighter jets, used to produce cars too, but at this point, Saab cars are no longer being produced, if I remember correctly, but they still produce fighter jets, not bad fourth generation fighter jets, and reports are that this company, Saab, plans to build a factory on a Kiev-controlled territory. So Saab is ready to organize their assembly production of the Gripen fighters in Ukraine as a part of agreements to sell Kiev 100 to 150 just 39 Gripen E fighters. This was reported by the executive director of the concern, Michael Johansson. And the only question I have, by the way, what these people are smoking? what factory they gonna build on the Q control territory? When they are talking about building or planning building this factory? It's insane, right? But this information, I'm sharing this information just to demonstrate how delusional globalists and globalist control regimes and their puppets basically are, right? This is embarrassing, should be embarrassing, right? For this Michael Johnson, director of this concern hub. This should be embarrassing, but that person is so delusional, so out of touch with reality that he's publicly saying that, well, we're going to build factory in Kiev control territory and build planes there. I mean, does he understands that that factory would not be built even? I don't know, but this is the level of delusion, by the way, among our enemies, right? And this is very dangerous. This is very dangerous. That's why I'm saying quite often that until Russia will use only language that our enemies understand, which is a language of force, until Russia will force Western elites to face the reality, acknowledge that they lost this proxy war that they started, until then we will constantly see attempts of globalists to escalate further and further and further and prolong this war as much as they can, right? Because they are delusional, and we have to force them to basically face the reality. Meanwhile, when it comes to delusional Western elites and their proxy regime, well, we have this report that I think worth our attention. Information is coming from Barack Ravider, from Axios. According to him, Zelensky is calling now Trump to follow up Russian sanctions with missiles. Basically, Zelensky is kind of blackmailing Trump, saying that, don't be pussy, don't afraid to escalate with Russia, give us our weapons, sanctions are good, but not enough, do more, which is, should be embarrassing for US in this particular case and US leadership when some nobody like Zelensky is like telling them what to do and when and how. But yet again, when it comes to Western elites, by the way, they have no dignity, they have no humanity whatsoever. They are freaking scum of humanity, right? So therefore, we shouldn't expect any decency from them, right? Let me give you a quote from this material here. President Trump is worried about escalation, but I think that if there are no negotiations, escalation will happen anyways. I think if Putin does not stop, we will have to stop him. Sanctions are not a tool, but we also need the long-range. Sanctions are one tool, but we also need the long-range missiles. We are not only talking about Tomahawks. US has many similar systems that don't require long training. I think you can only deal with the Putin through pressure. Zelensky told Axios, according to Barack Ravider, and what can I say, by the way? How can I comment this? These delusional creatures have to be stopped, man. These delusional creatures have to be neutralized by any means necessary. And I mean, not just Kiev regime, by the way. I mean, Western elites in general. We have to neutralize them, right? Enough is enough. There is no more patience, by the way, to take this freaking nonsense from the West, right? Let's hit them and hit them in such a scale that they will never ever forget about it, right? And will never ever dare to mess with Russia again. We are getting closer to that point. I think, but still, Russia is reacting, while it is absolutely necessary to be more proactive and to take some preemptive measures, including preemptive strikes. When we know that West is going to escalate anyways, right? We just know it. Western elites have no reverse gear, they have no brakes, so they will go ahead and escalate even further than we have seen right now. So when we know this, why should not we take some preemptive steps and strike first and teach them a lesson? Why not? I don't know, man. And then what will happen happened, I'm a fatalist and I believe what is going to happen will happen anyways. So what we are afraid of, or why we continue to exercise this freaking restraint that no one really understands. I mean, not here in Russia, not anywhere else in this world. Even our enemies don't understand why we are exercising these restraints for so long, and by doing so, inviting more trouble upon us. Right? What the hell, man? Anyways, Let's continue with some other news, by the way. So, seems like Western elites, Western propaganda outlets, and so on were quite impressed, kinda, with the Russian nuclear-powered unlimited range missile Burevestnik that was successfully not just tested but already is ready. All the tests have been finalized and is ready to be deployed to Russian armed forces, and also all sorts of nicknames have been generated in the West about this missile. For example, it was called Flying Chernobyl. It is a weapon out of science fiction that could destabilize global security. New York Times, for example, writes, and I have to disagree, by the way. This missile is definitely not a flying Chernobyl. This missile is 100 times of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. At least 100 times of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Not the Chernobyl, by the way. It can carry thermonuclear warhead, right, of 250 kilotons or maybe 500 kilotons, maybe megaton, by the way. Who knows, right? So it is a very wrong comparison, by the way. It has nothing to do with the Chernobyl. And if you want to compare, if you want to demonstrate power of this missile, then you can say it's a 100, 200, 300 times over or more powerful than what US dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Maybe that will make more sense for readers of New York Times. But anyways, soon this Burevestnik nuclear-powered missiles are gonna enter service. They are ready to be deployed, and one might only hope that neither this strategical weapon system, neither any other, will be ever used, right? But it's good to know. It's good to know that at least we have capabilities to strike hard on our enemies, right? I don't know if at this point I'm not even sure. By the way, if US will strike us with nuclear weapons, I'm not sure Putin will authorize strike back. I'm not sure, man. I don't understand what Russian president is doing. I just simply don't understand. You might say that it's okay if you don't understand. Let's hope Putin understands what he's doing, and okay, I get that. But it is frustrating. It is frustrating, man, that we are exercising this restraint for this long and inviting on ourselves more and more escalation from the West. I don't understand it, sir. Hopefully, Russian leadership does. Hopefully, they know what they're doing, by the way, because at one point, US and other NATO countries might actually go ahead and strike us with the nukes, directly or through key regime, right? And what we're gonna do then? We have to continue this, exercising restraint until all of us will be killed by Westerners, or what are we doing here? I don't know. Meanwhile, and you know what? If someone says that Russian leadership don't think, sir, West will go ahead with next phase of escalation, and West don't want to escalate any further than it is already, and that kind of stuff. No, man. Russian leadership knows that West wants to destroy Russia. Literally destroy, divide, right? And then kill as many people as they can, enslave survivors, right? And rob everything they can take from Russia, right? Russian leadership knows this, and I'm telling you because, for example, former defense minister and current secretary of the Security Council, Shoigu, spoke about it, right? Again, that West is seeking to break up Russia. So they know, by the way, that West is not going to stop. So if they know, why on earth we are still exercising restraint and giving them time to prepare more? Why are we doing this? Are we freaking suicidal, really? Let me give you news here. The West is seeking to break up Russia into dozens of small, weak states. Former Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu has stated. Shoigu, who is currently serves as the Secretary of Russia's Security Council, made these remarks in an op-ed published on Argumenty Fakti on Tuesday, ahead of yesterday, by the way, right? Today is Tuesday. For God's sake, man, with this work, man, I'm forgetting. No, yes, today. Today is Tuesday, isn't it? Okay. Sorry, dear friends. So, yeah. Shoigu, who currently serves as a secretary of Russia's Security Council, made the remarks in an op-ed published in Argumenty Fakti on Tuesday, ahead of National Unity Day celebrated on November 4th. He warned that adversaries falsely believe Russia's ethnically diverse makeup is its weakness, arguing that attempts to sow division would fail due to strength of the Russian society. The attack on our history, culture, and spiritual values continue unabated alongside attempts to undermine the harmony of a brotherhood among our nations, Shoigu wrote. Their goal is to the sovereignization of our country. They seek to divide our motherland into dozens of states. Their ex-minister added, the West cannot grasp the essence of Russian interethnic relations, the moral strength and the unity of our multi-ethnic nation, qualities that enable us to stand resolute against destructive geopolitical methods. Although ethnic Russians make up around 80% of the country's population, Russia is home to more than 100 ethnic minorities, as well as 7 Muslim majority and 2 Buddhist majority regions. Since 2022, the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe has adopted several resolutions calling for the decolonization of Russia. The Russian Foreign Ministry condemned the move, accusing PACE of spreading Russophobia and neocolonial chauvinism. And by the way, you know what? On some points, I do agree with Shoigu. Absolutely, Russia is home to many ethnic groups, not just ethnic Russians, but ethnic everybody, right? And these ethnic minorities, by the way, are realizing very well, that together we are force, right? Together we are strong. Separately, no, not so much, right? Separately, we might even have no chances to exist, right, in this crazy world. So it's no longer 90s, by the way, when people were delusional after collapse of Soviet Union, when people were losing ground, right? No, it's a very different times, and Russian people are united as never, right? And the West will fail. They can spend as much as they want to create some internal divisions here in Russia, but they will fail. And they are, by the way, spending millions and millions, right? They are spending money to finance some ultra-nationalist elements, ultra-nationalist ethnic Russian elements, ultra-nationalist ethnic minority elements, right? To create division. They don't care who they will finance. Their main goal is to create destruction inside the country. And one of the biggest examples of that is Navalny. Remember Navalny? He was beginning his career as a ethnic chauvinist, by the way. He was freaking Nazi, man. Literally Nazi. He was calling ethnic minorities all sorts of names. Russian citizens, by the way. Ethnic minorities, right? So he was a Nazi, and he was an asset of the West. He was receiving all the support, right, that he can get from the West. And they are, to nowadays, all sorts of ethno-chauvinist elements in ethnic minorities too that are operating from outside of Russia. They are located in different countries and they are running all sorts of channels, right? All sorts of Telegram channels or some that kind of stuff, right? To create, to brainwash basically people, right? And to create divisions. But Russian security services are working quite okay and are trying to neutralize all the threats, right? And people, by the way, itself are united. People don't want no instability here in Russia. So I will agree with Shoigu that Russia is united and the West will fail in their attempt to create division among us, right? No matter how much money they're going to spend. But yet again, Shoigu himself is saying that the West has a clear plan to destroy Russia, divide it in numerous parts, right? And then to basically colonize it, kill as many as people as they can, because that's what West always does, kills everybody they can, and the survivors will be enslaved, right? That's what they want, Western elites, by the way. That's what they did everywhere they go in the last 3 to 5 centuries, right? So we know this, and still we are exercising freaking restraint and are not eliminating those elites in the West. While we can do this, it's only like a matter of 30 minutes, 1 hour, and there is no more Western elites, man, in existence. And there is no more threat, therefore. And we have to be proactive, man. We have to take some serious steps to either exterminate Western elites, our existential threat, or to put them in their place so that they will never, ever dare to mess around Russia and Russian people. That's what we have to do. It's not about choices. We don't really have a choice here. And I struggle to understand why Russian leadership does not understand this, man. I just don't freaking get it, And for God's sake, man, I'm not genius for sure, but I'm not the most stupid person in this world too. I mean, I have a decent school education, decent university education, right? I spent like 2 or 3 decades in journalism, so I cannot be that stupid, right? Or most stupid human in this world. So if I don't understand something, then that means many other people are struggling to understand with this freaking restraint policy that Russian leadership is exercising for God knows what reason, man. What the hell? When they know perfectly well and they are saying openly that, well, Western elites are existential threat. They want to kill us all, man. They want to divide our country. They want to destroy everything. And we still are like exercising restraint. Okay. Let's see how far we will go with these nonsensical policies, man. Anyways, meanwhile, story of this Nord Stream pipelines, deception story in regards to Nord Stream pipelines, when US, UK, and other NATO countries are trying to divert attention of public from involvement of these NATO countries in a terrorist attack towards this Ukrainian group that was set up from the beginning to serve as a scapegoat continues. And the Italian appeals court has ordered the extradition of Nord Stream 2 suspect to Germany. Okay, eventually that someone will be tried probably, and those scapegoats from Ukraine will be designated as ones that actually carried out this terrorist attack on Nord Stream pipelines. No one among informed people gonna believe it. This nonsense, of course, because everyone who has like 2 brain cells understands that this terrorist attack was conducted by US secret services and militaries, British secret services and militaries, with involvement of Norway, who is benefiting greatly, by the way, which is benefiting greatly as a result of destruction of these pipelines, because Norway is selling now overpriced gas in tremendous volumes to Europe, right? and they are making dozens of billions on that. And Poland was involved also because Polish leadership is acting very, very weirdly, right? They openly celebrated destruction of Nord Stream pipelines, and they are kind of doing anything and everything they can to kind of make from this, even from these scapegoat elements from Ukraine, and sort of a heroes that, well, well done, they destroyed their Nord Stream, although they know also perfectly well that those psychos did not destroy nothing. They were set up initially from the beginning to serve as a scapegoats, right? So yeah, okay. At one point, Berlin will come out and say that, well, investigation was committed. These Ukrainians are guilty, and so case is closed, right? That's what they do, but hardly anyone ever will believe. And I feel only sorry that US and UK pay no price, either for these Nord Stream terrorist attacks, neither for death of tens of thousands of Russian citizens, due to hostility and direct involvement of the US and UK and Germany, for example, and France and Italy and others in this proxy war against Russia. I feel sorry that none of them paid any price for these crimes against Russian people until now. And well, if Russian leadership continues to exercise this restraint, probably will not pay no price whatsoever. They might actually go ahead and bomb all of us with the nukes. Probably Russian president will say, "Oh, okay, so sad. Don't retaliate. Let's have a dialogue with the U.S. president." Okay, man, talk to him. Anyways, by the way, RT is reporting that Ukrainians arrested in Poland on espionage charges. 2 Ukrainian citizens have been arrested in Poland on suspicion of conducting espionage for a foreign intelligence agency, Warsaw International Security Agency, announced on Monday. The arrest took place on October 14th in the southern city of Katowice. Both men, aged 32 and 34, were charged the same day, according to ABW statement. The agency declined to name the suspects, citing reasons of national security. And by the way, they're gonna say, most likely Warsaw will say, these 2 Ukrainian nationals were spying for Russia. But if those elements were actually from SBU, Kiev regime secret services, and spying for Kiev regime, then that definitely can be seen as an indicator that Ukrainian Nazis are preparing, by the way, to fight Poland, because according to reports, these 2 individuals had been collecting intelligence on Poland's military and critical infrastructure, including facilities and the routes used for delivering weapons to Ukraine, strategical routes, right? And to Ukraine, that means to Western Ukraine, to the borders with Western Ukraine, right? So the ABV said it had uncovered their evidence of payments made for their surveillance service and other criminal activities. Once again, if these 2 individuals were operating on behalf of SBU or main intelligence directorate of Kiev regime, or maybe for Azov neo-Nazi formation, that clearly indicates that they know perfectly well that it's only a matter of time when Poland will make a claim on Western Ukraine, which is a stronghold, main stronghold, by the way, of Ukrainian Nazis and political Ukrainianism as a general, right? And they are preparing. These Ukrainian Nazis are preparing, by the way, to deal with the Poles, right, when time comes. And let's be real here. I don't think Polish militaries are as capable as these Ukrainian Nazi formations are, because ones have no battle experience, others do have military experience, right? And Ukrainian Nazis might decimate Polish armed forces, man. So it's not going to be easy work. Now you can understand why Warsaw is this keen this conflict, this proxy war against Russia to continue as long as possible, and as many Ukrainians to be killed in the process, because Warsaw's calculus is that the longer this conflict continues, more people on Kiev-controlled territory, including from Western Ukraine, will die, including Nazi Ukrainians that most likely will fight Poles when Poles will start claiming Western Ukraine. And Warsaw sees that to be beneficial, right? Prolongation of this conflict and death of as many people on Kiev-controlled territory as possible. And you know why they think so now? Because no matter how much weapons they're gonna buy, by the way, and they are on a buying spree, right? These Polish elites, they are buying weapons from all over the world. But if you don't have a battle-capable military, by the way, right, battle-hardened military, those weapons not gonna fight for you, right? And that's why I think, in any case, by the way, no matter how long this war that West is waging against us will continue, eventually Poles will face Ukrainian Nazis, and they will have a hard time. Eventually, they will defeat them in Western Ukraine, eventually. But they're going to have a tremendous price to pay for that. Meanwhile, U.S. ambassador into NATO, Whitaker, did open mouth once again, this freaking moron, and called for on Hungary, Slovakia, and Turkey to cut any cooperation with Russia, to cut especially cooperation in energy field, and to stop buying oil and gas. He actually demanded even, these countries to obey orders from the West. And we will see what is going to happen, by the way. I'm not going to do no predictions. Maybe eventually they will force all three to stop cooperating with Russia, although I do have some doubts. I don't think any of these countries, either Hungary or Slovakia or Turkey, wants to cut ties with Russia and are in a position to actually do it, technically speaking, right? Turkish economy gonna get smashed, by the way, without Russia and without cooperation with Russia. Turkish economy is already in depression, right? And for quite a while now. And what's gonna happen to them if they will stop buying Russian energy, for example, stop cooperating with Russia in many other fields, right? And if they will stop transiting Russian energy also through Turk Stream pipeline, for example, that brings to Turkish economy billions and billions of dollars, right, year-on-year terms. So I don't think these threats from NATO will work, but anything is possible in this crazy freaking world, by the way. So much stuff that is happening makes no sense that none of us should be surprised if tomorrow very same Turkey, very same Hungary, and very same Slovakia will say, okay, we are recalling our ambassadors, cutting diplomatic ties with Russia, and cutting all the cooperation. Even that would not surprise me. Although this is extremely unlikely, but even that would not surprise me, really. And I'm quite sure Keir Starmer, that was in Turkey, maybe still is in Turkey, was talking about degrading relationships between Turkey and Russia. London and Turkey is a British proxy. Don't forget about it, dear friends. Turkish elites, historically speaking, are British proxies. Current regime too, by the way, right? And maybe London will, British aristocracies or British secret services will use their leverage over Turkish elites to basically push Ankara towards more provocative, hostile steps against Russia, including provocative steps in political, geopolitical, and economical fields too. Even if Turkey is in no position to do so, if Turkish elites have no choice, I mean, and they will do it, right? And they are British proxies, by the way, historically. So if white masters tell them do this, they will do it. If they're white masters among Anglo-Saxon elites. Oh dear. So yeah, let's see what is going to happen. By the way, let's see what is going to happen. I said, by the way, until we'll strike on Western elites and exterminate them, and I mean extermination of the Western elites, actual extermination. I'm not saying this word like I don't mean it. I actually mean it. I think Western elites, European aristocracies, European political class have to be exterminated, right? Their intelligence services have to be exterminated. Their militaries have to be exterminated. UK and France has to be denuclearized, demilitarized, right? We cannot trust them with nuclear weapons. We have to do it if we want to survive. Otherwise, they will kill us all, man. It's either them or us. That's it, man. There is no time for restraint. If we're gonna die anyways, then what the hell? If we don't take preemptive strikes now, if we don't take preemptive measures, they're gonna kill us all, man. They're gonna either kill us all or make life a freaking hell for us. And Shoigu said exactly that, right? Russian leadership knows this, that West will not stop until we will stop them. So what are we waiting for? What are we waiting for? I don't get it, man. I just don't. And I don't really have no more patience, right? I don't even gonna try now to understand what Moscow's policies are. I don't care, man. Because of their restraint, tens of thousands of Russian citizens died. Because I am 100% convinced if Kremlin made a political decision in the beginning, when it has become absolutely clear that this conflict would not end in March, April of 2022, and when it has become absolutely clear that Plan B has to be implemented, which is a plan that is operational to nowadays, right? This atrocity campaign, or what is the name? Not I forget the freaking name. When you are depleting capabilities of enemy, basically, that's the word I'm looking for, and I forget it. Война на истощение. Attrition, yes, attrition campaign, right? When it has become clear that it's all about attrition now, right? Moscow, very same time, should make political decision. I'm 100% convinced on that, to allow Russian security services and militaries to deploy whatever force they are thinking is necessary, whatever, including nuclear weapons. If that would happen then, 3 years ago, towards the end of April 2022, when it has become absolutely clear that this conflict, this Plan A did not work, West derailed their talks, right? Istanbul talks, so-called. And now Plan B has to be implemented, which is a war of attrition. Then, same time, political decisions had to be made to allow Russian militaries to do whatever is necessary to achieve all the goals with as minimal casualties as possible, right? And in as minimal time as possible. And Russian militaries and intelligence will do the job, man. I have no doubts about it, even for a second. They will do the job. And this conflict would not last more than a couple of weeks, max, after Istanbul talks failed. But, well, Putin had different plans, different ideas. He chose this restraint policy. Okay, he is a president. This is his decision, right? Let's see how history gonna judge his decisions, man. RIA Novosti, meanwhile, is reporting that, Lukoil will ask now US, maybe Lukoil will beg US also to extend its license to curtail its operations That's the situation we are now. Russian, these giants, energy companies, gonna go and beg freaking US, man, to allow them to sell their foreign assets. Is that not embarrassing? It is, man. Lukoil plans to request, if necessary, an extension of its wind down license from the U.S. Treasury Department's Office of Foreign Assets control to ensure the smooth operation of its foreign assets. The company announced. Lukoil announced on Monday that it plans to sell its foreign assets in connection with the introduction of a number of sanctions against it. The asset sale is being carried out in accordance with the OFAC wind down license. If necessary, the company plans to apply for an extension of the license to ensure the continued operations of its overseas assets, the statement said. So, okay, Lukoil is being forced to sell its Western foreign assets, basically, not just in the Western countries, and they do have assets in the West too, by the way, right? Just recently, a refinery was struck in Romania, isn't it? Just about a week ago, refinery was struck in Romania. There was a fire, right? Explosion and so on, and that refinery was subsidiary of Lukoil. And same time, in the same day, it was 20th of October, isn't it? Another refinery was struck in Hungary, and both these refineries are working with Russian oil. They are refining Russian oil. So, yeah, Lukoil will sell now and lose billions, I guess, on these sales, forced sales, basically. Yet another great result of restraint policies that Russian leadership is exercising for this long, man. Oh, great. I guess investors into Lukoil, they're going to be happy, by the way, losing all these billions, right? And it's not just Lukoil. Rosneft is also not in any better position, another Russian energy major. So US has given Germany a 6 months deadline to sort the Rosneft issue, according to Bloomberg, expecting Berlin to solve ownership limbo of Rosneft's German assets for temporary exemption from sanctions. This issue may be discussed at the G7 meeting in Toronto this week. So, well, as I said, it's not just Lukoil that has assets all over the world, including in the West. Rosneft is in a somewhat similar situation. They have assets in Germany and God, right? And there may be Rosneft and German assets of Rosneft already been taken from the Rosneft. It's operated by Germans now, right? And probably they will just sell it, confiscate completely, right, and just sell it to someone. Rosneft, never ever gonna take back these assets, by the way, not just in Germany, but anywhere else. So yes, big hit on Russian energy companies there for sure, right? And they will survive, undoubtedly. These companies will survive. They will manage to continue doing business, but their life gonna become more difficult, obviously, right? Business gonna shrink significantly, and the process is already underway. Today, I saw reports that Kazakhstan, for example, is not yet Kazakhstan has not yet decided, to buy Rosneft's assets. Lukoil's assets in the country. They will think about it. Probably negotiations will take place, and someone will buy these assets, man, because, of course, these companies, Russian companies, will be forced to sell it with a discount, right? Because the objective reality. So, yeah, what are you gonna do? Our team, meanwhile, is reporting, and we are not striking back, by the way. Just keep in mind, we are observing all these years. We are observing these hits on us, right? And Western elites are striking us hard, man, from all sides. They are striking our economy. They want to destroy our lives of ordinary people. By the way, all these sanctions that they impose, you think these sanctions are harming Russian elites? No, man. If anything, these sanctions are designated to harm ordinary people because West wants unrest to happen in Russia, right? They are killing tens of thousands of our citizens, right? Prolonging this proxy war as much as they can, threatening us on daily basis, literally on daily basis, right? Russia hate is a standard now in the Western world. You cannot say anything good or positive about Russians. If you say so, if you say anything positive, oh, you're gonna be treated differently, right? That's the level of Russia hate in the West, and we did not yet do anything really to strike them back, man, to bring the pain to the Western elites. It's insane, man. RT is reporting at this point. I mean, if Western world feels any pain, it's just because they're stupid elites, right? Just because they have idiots in elites, idiots in the leadership that are destroying social fabric, destroying economies, destroying livelihoods of their Western people. But Russia has nothing to do with it. It's not Russia retaliating. It's Western elites, by the way, that are just that hostile towards their own people too, right? And on this matter, for example, Germany, which is experiencing significant economical issues, by the way, still number one economy in EU, but nevertheless in decline. And so Germany militarization wish list is to cost, by the way, German taxpayers nearly 400 billion euros, according to Politico. Germany is preparing 377 billion euro, or 440 billion US dollars expansion of its armed forces. Politico reported on Monday, citing internal government documents. The move is a part of a broader militarization drive across the EU. The files reportedly detail a plan for new weapons and equipment projects across the Bundeswehr's land, air, naval, space, and cyber forces. The long-term rearmament efforts is expected to stretch beyond 2026. The plan lists about 320 new projects, with roughly half of their funds set to go to German arms producers. Rheinmetall will supply tanks, air defense systems, and munition worth tens of billions of euros, while DHE or DHE, whatever, defense is expected to provide its Iris-T missiles. The package covers spending on satellites, drones, and naval programs. Around 14 billion euros is allocated for space projects, including a low-orbit network for military communication, while other funds would go to reconnaissance and patrol systems. It is also includes US-made weapons such as F-35 fighter jets and Tomahawk cruise missiles that most likely will be used against Russia one day. And we will continue to exercise restraint, man. We are so peace-loving people, man. We only exercise restraint. Kill us all, man. God bless restraint. Major contracts will still require approval from the Parliamentary Budget Committee once they are ready for implementation. Politico wrote, Berlin has changed its budget rules to permit long-term defense spending beyond 100 billion euro. Fund created after the escalation of the Ukraine conflict in 2022. So yeah, man, they are militarizing. They are getting ready for a direct war with Russia. They are not even hiding, by the way, that for 2028, 2029, they're going to be ready kind of to fight Russia. Yet again, if Moscow will allow us to fight back, we will eat them alive, right? Europe is not an issue for us in any way, shape, or form. We will freaking eat them alive, man. But we have to have a green light on that, right? And seems like Russian leadership loves restraint. So it might turn out that they will eat us alive. Could be the case, man. Who knows? Who knows, right? Because holy restraint, man. It's a new religion of Russian leadership, holy restraint. Okay. RT is also reporting that, well, all this stuff, by the way, is happening while Germany's economy is in downfall, right? And in this report, for example, there is talk exactly about that. Germany's economic decline is becoming dramatic following years of flattening GDP and their failed attempts to revive the situation, to reverse the situation. The head of the Munich-based Info Institute, one of Europe's leading economic think tanks, has warned. A new study by the institute shows Germany's economic output has stagnated since 2018. Government spending on pensions, schools, and infrastructure has jumped by 25% since 2015, and corporate investment in machinery and factories has fallen below 2015 levels. According to Clemens Fuster, president of their IFO, their bleak state of the economy suggests that Germany is on the verge of Italiens Verhaltnis, German for Italian conditions, a term used there to describe chronic economic weakness, stagnation, and structural inefficiency long associated with Italy's economy. Germany has been in economic decline for years. The situation has become dramatic. Fust told the Bild in the comments published on Sunday, less private investment means less growth, less tax revenue, and thus less money for government services in the medium term. The analysts said the downturn is already being felt by the millions of ordinary Germans through their decline in their standard of living, and warned that without swift reform, the country faces a 25-year economic downturn. Okay, and after 25 years, there might be no more Germany on a political map, by the way, because if Russian leadership forgets about holy restraint and begins acting as many people expect, including myself, with deployment of preemptive measures, right, to bring the pain to our enemies, then in that case, by the way, Europe is doomed to be, to find itself in 20, 30 years' time to be either loosely relevant in best case of scenario or completely irrelevant part of Eurasian continent. That's their destiny, right? All we have to do, by the way, here in Russia is to survive, right? For Europe to avoid that destiny, by the way, that I just said, is the only way is to survive. That is to attack Russia, as they do, by the way, on a daily basis, destroy Russia and grab the resources, because they have no resources, by the way, for growth. They just have no freaking resources for that, right? That's why globalists and globalist control regimes in Europe are this desperate, right? That's why they are attacking us so hard, man. And that's why they are dreaming about this sick idea of achieving strategical defeat of Russia. And we cannot allow this to happen, of course, right? And one way and only way, I think, to avoid this sickening dreams of Western elites to become true is to not just stand strong, by the way, but to hit hard too. And it is time to hit hard, man, and bring some pain to the West. And we can do it, man. We can freaking do it. If Russia was some, I don't know, Burkina Faso, by the way, that has no actual means to deal with the Western so-called elites, right, to protect itself, way that they would like. Well, we can, man. We are not Burkina Faso. This is Russia, right? And so let's go through some other news also, dear friends. Yesterday I did mention that U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham is now openly calling to kill head of head of Venezuela's government, basically Maduro, and he's all about annexation of Venezuela, colonization of Venezuela, and he's not alone, by the way. Another U.S. senator from Florida, Rick Scott, is calling to destroy not just Venezuela and colonize and enslave people there. And he's calling to do the same with Cuba too, and to entire southern hemisphere, to everybody, right? To everybody. And I can give you a video. I do have a video of that, man. That's the typical face of Western elites, man. I mean, why would I want to talk to this freaking animal, man? Just take a freaking weapon, kill this bitch. That's it, man. Right? That's it, man. These rabid animals should be put to sleep, man. That's it. And let's listen to this.
I'd head to Russia or China right now.
Because?
His days are numbered. Something's going to happen. Whether it's internal or...
Openly threatening president of other country. Is this a decent human being? Is this a human being at all? No, man. This is a rabid animal and should be neutralized. Should be killed as a rabid animal, man. Period. And entire Western elites is like that. There is no difference, man.
external, I think something's going to happen.
The firepower that's off the coast, right? This is an armada. This is a lot of U.S. forces. Are we about to invade Venezuela?
I don't think so. I mean, if we do, I'd be surprised.
Earlier this month, President Trump announced he approved covert CIA operations inside Venezuela.
What do you think removing Maduro would signal to other socialist regimes in the area?
It'll be the end of Cuba. America is going to take care of the Southern Hemisphere, and we're going to make sure that there's freedom and democracy.
Okay, that's so. Cuba, people of Cuba should get ready too. They're gonna get smashed, man. They are next. And I see comments, by the way, that Levan is bloodthirsty and that kind of stuff. I'm not bloodthirsty, man. If I want my enemies to be neutralized and put in their places, this is not being bloodthirsty. Bloodthirsty when you want to harm someone that done nothing bad to you. But if you want to deal with your enemies, then that's normal, right? Let's not pretend here that any one of you or me or anyone else is an angel, man. And I have never said that I'm going to be freaking playing games here. I'm not. Come on, man. Anyways, I do have a few more news here. I have my opinion. No one has to agree with me, or everyone can disagree with me. I don't care, man. I have my take on the situation. That's how it is, man. Svetlana Vladimirovna is saying, yes, you are bloodthirsty. Okay, Svetlana Vladimirovna, I disagree with you. You can have your opinion. That's fine. But let's continue to talk about some other news. And no bloodthirsty Americans, by the way, American elites. I mean, I am a bloodthirsty, right? According to Svetlana Vladimirovna. But American elites that Russian leadership loves to have a conversation with, right? American elites are angels, right? They, tens of millions of people did not die because of American elites or elites in the West. No, man, it's don't be misinformed. They are angels, right? And in order not to kill nobody, they are about to take on Venezuela, obviously, and according to reports, Venezuelan foreign minister stated that CIA runs a false flag to justify aggression. Venezuela informed Trinidad and Tobago about a fabricated attack on a docked U.S. military ship to blame Venezuela. CIA-funded criminal cell linked to this covert operation being dismantled on Venezuelan territory. So there was different reports that there might be some false flag operation in regards to U.S. vessel in Trinidad and Tobago that went there to do some exercises, allegedly. And same time, number of media outlets are reporting that CIA-linked group was neutralized on the territory of Venezuela, right? Maybe we will learn some more information about it later on. But what is also interesting, that number of channels on Russian Telegram reported, and maybe some media outlets too, but I see this on the Telegram, that Western tracking sources reported the arrival of aircraft in Venezuela previously associated with the Wagner PMC-linked logistics. And many of you are familiar with Wagner PMC, of course. A Russian IL-76TD heavy transport operated by aviation Chitotrans, a company longer tied to military cargo movements for Wagner, landed in Venezuela with their undisclosed cargo. So yes, maybe Wagnerites already are there. I did said a few days ago that if people of Venezuela are gonna fight, they will receive all the necessary support from friendly nations, and Americans would not be able to defeat them or enslave them. No way, by the way. If people of Venezuela will fight, they will win that fight, as Vietnamese did at the time, as Afghani people did, by the way, right? That forced US and other NATO member states to run away, by the way, from country, right? So it's all up to Venezuelan people, not just government, by the way. US can take out political and military leadership of Venezuela once, twice, three times, right? But as long as people themselves are fighting for their freedom, and as long as Venezuelan people are fighting not to be enslaved by the Americans, US military is not going to be able to defeat them, and they will receive all necessary support, including from all sorts of groups in this world that have suffered from aggression, Western aggression, and among them, Wagner PMC might be too. And I'm quite sure many fighters of Wagner PMC would love to take on American militaries, by the way, to revenge their own comrades, right? And to help other peoples. So, this is just, yet again, this is not official report. This is some tracking sources that are reporting about the, flight of this plane that are linked to Wagner into Venezuela. Could be true, could be not, but we will find out. We will find out. Meanwhile, Russia ratified the strategic partnership agreement with Venezuela. Russian President Vladimir Putin ratified this document yesterday. So Russia has ratified the agreement on its strategic partnership with Venezuela. Russian President Vladimir Putin signed the document finalizing the agreement entering into a force, and very little. What was published in the media is that this agreement is mainly about political, economical cooperation. Very little being said about a potential military or security cooperation, although I'm quite sure there is a paragraph in the agreement about security cooperation too. And if Russian leadership one day will decide to no longer exercise holy restraint, well, in that case, Venezuelan people might actually receive quite a handy assistance from Russian Federation, because if any country is capable of dealing with the Western world, is Russia, right? Russia can do everything and anything to put Western elites into their places. China can do too, but Russia for sure, and Russia has done it before. Russia has historical experience of doing that. So yet again, timing is interesting that Russian president signed this document yesterday, right? And it's official now. President of Venezuela, Maduro, ratified this document about a week ago or something like that, right? I reported about it, I believe. There was first parliament ratification, then Maduro himself ratified that, and now Putin ratified it. So let's see what this document actually means and what kind of influence the strategic partnership between Russia and Venezuela will have in practical terms. We will find out. Also, there are reports about unease in relationships between Ethiopia and Eritrea, northern southern part of Africa, right? Eritrea used to be part of Ethiopia, of course, you know, dear friends. They fought between each other. There was civil war there, and Eritrea gained independence in early 90s, around that, right? And so after that, Ethiopia has become basically landlocked country. They have still difficult relationships with Eritrea, and there are quite a number of forces, global forces, that are supporting both sides, right? Which means that one day we might see actually a resumption of the hostilities between Ethiopia and Eritrea, and in that case, Ethiopia might try to gain coastal access to the sea. Basically, Ethiopia might try to get to Eritrea's coastline, some parts of it, right? But yes, reports are that tensions have been escalating between these countries. Hopefully, it will not go down to war, and sides will manage to negotiate whatever issues they have. But usually, whenever there is any conflict, by the way, there is outside players too involved, right? And quite often, it's outside players that are deciding fate of this or that country and how situation will develop. A U.S. president is in Japan. And he had a meeting with Japanese prime minister, new prime minister, first female leader of government there. And Sanae Takaishi, this new head of Japanese government, has officially nominated Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. Yeah, it's freaking circus, man. Yeah, Trump once again was nominated for Nobel Peace Prize. It did not work. All this freak show around Nobel Peace Prize didn't work in 2025. Well, let's start a new one, right, for 2026. So yes, Japanese Prime Minister is opening freaking a gameplay on that. She also gifted Trump a golf bag signed by the Japanese golf star Hideki Matsuyama, along with the former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's personal putter. So yeah, well, Japanese leadership demonstrated that they are slaves of America, and they are happy slaves of America, and they will do whatever it takes to maintain this happiness, right? Okay, it's their choice, by the way. They love to be American slaves of Anglo-Saxons. Let them be so. You know, who am I to tell them anything, right? But same time, no one should expect that this recent statement of a Japanese new prime minister that she wants to normalize relations with Russia or to achieve a peace agreement means anything. It does not, right? Because as long as Japan is occupied, as long as Japan is an enslaved nation and a quasi-state, there is no point for Moscow really to have any talks to these freaking idiots that are in charge. They're formally in charge. In reality, of course, Washington is in charge, but they have their slaves there around the show, right? And this person, Sanae Takashi, is one of those, right? So yet again, there is no point. Of course, Moscow will play the game, right, of diplomacy and politics, and we also want to see this agreement being reached, and Moscow will be very polite, right, as it is always the case. But on the ground, nothing gonna be done, man. If we should expect anything from Japan, it's further escalatory steps, period. That's it. Meanwhile, Putin signed a law on a mutual investment protection agreement with China. I think this could be important stuff, very important even, because this might incentivize Chinese companies to invest more into Russian Federation. They are already investing, by the way, but level of investments might not be as big as you might imagine, even though we are neighbors, by the way. There is not that much of a volume in Chinese investments until now, right? For whatever reasons. And reasons can be very many, and based on quite complex calculations, right? Politics, geopolitics, this and that. But after this document is signed, maybe Chinese companies will say, what, we have state guarantees here, by the way, so we are losing nothing. Let's do business. Let's invest bigger, build factories, build everything, right? And then hopefully it will work out, and we all will benefit. Russians benefit, Chinese benefit, right? And if anything goes wrong, the state guarantees investments. Same goes other way, obviously, other way around. Of course, Russian companies also do invest in Chinese economy, but potential, of course, is not the same. China is an economical giant, monster, right? A number one economy in the world, by the way. So in PPP index, China is number one economy in the world, purchasing power parity. In GDP, China is not yet there, but GDP is a corrupt index. GDP is not correct, not accurate index, by the way. So therefore, we should not really rely on that index that much. PPP is much more accurate and objective. Same time, some other positive news here. Russia and Iran to create a new major trade route. Next month, Moscow and Tehran will sign a deal for the Rasht-Astara railway, the key link in international north-south transport corridor. The 162-kilometer line will connect the railway networks of both countries, which is great, of course. Cooperation between Russia and Iran continues to improve, intensify, and hopefully this north-south trade route will work good, man, and benefit Southeast Asia, Middle East, obviously, Russia, Middle East, and Southeast Asia too, because this north-eastern trade route will benefit India has great interest in it, right? So it will benefit India also, and other regional countries there. So great potential. Let's see how it will work out. Meanwhile, by the way, another positive news. So there is, you see, I'm looking for some positive news also. It's not just all about wars and stuff, man. Although unfortunately, majority of news is not really optimistic one or positive one, but whenever I see some positive news, I'm happy to share it. And so a prototype of the import substituting MS-21 conducted their successful flight. So a prototype of the import substituting MS-21 aircraft successfully completed their flight in Irkutsk. Their Ministry of Industry and Trade reported the first footage of the Russian medium range, basically, MS-21 aircraft taking off from the airfield of the Irkutsk aviation plant of the Yakovlev company is being released. New domestic systems and their PD-14 engines were being tested on board. The agency wrote on its Telegram channels, and hopefully, by the way, MS-21 soon will enter service, will receive all the necessary paperwork. All tests will be finalized successfully, and soon this plane will enter service alongside a number of other Russian planes, IL-114, Superjet, by the way, all domestically built on exclusively Russian components and technologies. So it's a great success actually for Russian aerospace industry, because can you imagine logistics, by the way, behind these projects? I mean, to build this plane MS-21, I mean, you need I don't know, probably hundreds of thousands of different parts, right? And some parts are produced in this company, some parts in other company, some parts somewhere else, all in Russia, right? Including programming, by the way, and avionics and so on, right? So it's a tremendous logistical work was done first to be in a position to actually build the plane, successfully conducted the tests, and to prepare the ground for mass production. And hopefully in 2026, 2027, we will see several Russian planes, civilian planes, entering service. And of course, engines, by the way, engines are a very big deal. Only few countries in this world are capable of building either aircrafts or engines, right? And Russia is definitely one of them. And if lucky, if success will be with these Russian companies, with Russian aerospace industry, then in 10, 15 years from now, in 10, 15 years, maybe Russian aerospace industry will manage to actually compete with Boeing and Airbus. Hopefully they will. Also, dear friends, another positive news, for God's sake. Nabiullina, head of Russian Central Bank, stated that inflation will fail to the target level of 4% in the second half of 2026. So inflation in Russia will fail to their target level of 4% in the second half of 2026. Central Bank Governor Elvira Nabiullina announced in the State Duma. Next year, we expect inflation to be 4-5%, slightly above target, due to significant impact of one of the factors at the very beginning of the year. Our forecast assumes that the current rate of price growth will finally fall back to their target level in second half of 2026, she said. Nabiullina also noted that the central bank expects inflation to reach 6.57% by the end of this year. That's still a lot, but lower than the previous 2 years, she emphasized. And well, 6.57% is actually not bad, by the way, right? Anything below double digits, it's not bad, really. Although, of course, ideal inflation probably is 1% or maximum 2%. And well, in 2026, Russian economy, according to Nabiullina, and she is a top professional, by the way. She is one of the best specialists in the field, if not the best, right? Even though she is being criticized heavily, by the way, here in Russia by many public figures and non-public figures, right? Because of the high interest rates, right? But she has her vision, what needs to be done to maintain, to keep economies stronger, and they're capable of withstanding all sorts of strikes from all over the world, right? Generated by the West. And well, she's an expert, right? She's a specialist, so it makes no sense for me to criticize her. I'm not an expert in finances, so I have to trust her decisions. And because despite all these 30,000+ sanctions, Russian economy managed to withstand this pressure. Well, who should I say thanks for that? To Russian economical bloc, isn't it? That build the economy in such a way that it is capable of withstanding this pressure. And Nabiullina is, of course, one of the leading figures when it comes to Russian economical bloc, right? They are doing quite impressive job, I think. Although, yet again, I am not an expert. That's just my personal opinion on the matter. If your economy is capable of withstanding 20,000-30,000 sanctions, you must doing something correctly, right? I mean, it just seems logical to me. So yes, some positive news here. And she also went to say, dear friends, that all next week, all next year, there will be tendency to bring down interest rate, which stands on 16.5 now. A few days ago, central bank dropped interest rate from 0.5% from 17 to 16.5, and Nabiulina said that next year process will continue, and maybe towards the end of 2026, interest rates will drop to, I don't know, 12, 11, maybe even less than that. Who knows? We will see. And also interesting news, I think. Nabiulina spoke about the frozen Russian assets, and she said something quite interesting, by the way. I was a bit surprised to hear this. So half of the Russian investors' frozen assets from 2022 have already been unfrozen, and work on this is ongoing, stated the Bank of Russia's governor, Elvira Nabiulina. Half of these assets have been unfrozen during this period. This is people have received about half of their funds through various means, but this work continues, she said, at the joint meeting of the State Duma committees reviewing the main directions of their monetary policy. And even though she did not, this report, at least from RIA Novosti, is not going into details what she exactly meant by this. If half of the Russian frozen assets been unfrozen and given back to Russian investors, then why we are still talking about some 300 billion of Russian assets being frozen in the West? It's less than that, actually, in that case, right? It's about 150 billion then, plus minus some 10, 20 billion, right? So it's interesting. This definitely comes as a surprise to me. I did not think any Russian frozen assets were unfreezed and sent back to Russian investors. So, but if this is the case, then well done, man. Well done. I don't know how central bank or economical bloc managed to achieve this, but they did. I have no reason to doubt this statement of Nabiulina, right? So something positive there too. That half of the Russian frozen assets, half of Russian investors' frozen assets. It's not a central bank's assets, I guess. It's private investors, right? And there are hundreds of thousands of Russian citizens that invested in the West, by the way, right? In Western economies. So half of Russian investors' frozen assets from 2022 have already been unfrozen, and their, work continues to do more in this regard. Okay, great news. And so this is it. This is it for now. For a new segment, I guess many members of our community were not happy with my update today. Based on a few comments that I see, I've been called bloodthirsty and God knows what else I've been called in the chat. Okay, by the way, if I may, I will disagree with that statement, but you are entitled to have your opinion, by the way, about me, about anything else you like, right? And as long as this opinion expressed without going into extreme language, I'm okay with that, right? So, okay, there was no super chat, there was no donations, no nothing. So therefore, I will end this update on that. Have a wonderful day and take care. Bye for now.